Hello everyone, today you will hear an interesting story. Holly and I met in college, immediately liked each other, and decided not to delay getting married. We didn't have a big wedding, but our closest friends were there with us. We celebrated on campus as cheaply as our scholarship allowed. We were both orphans since childhood and ended up in an orphanage, but we found each other and decided to spend our lives together. It wasn't easy at first. After university, we both worked full-time and sometimes took on part-time jobs, but we always made time for each other. After a few years, Holly got a job at a large organization, and I continued to work as an assistant in a morgue. Eventually, we saved enough money to buy a small but cozy house with a large yard and a few outbuildings. We spent our spare time turning it into our own little nest, where we could escape from the hardships of real life. One day, Holly came up to me and asked, "What do you think?" "Amanda invited us to a party on Saturday, but you have a shift and I need to work on a project. But I really feel like going out and having a good time. We haven't been out in a while. Why don't you talk to your partner and switch shifts?" I smiled at her and replied, "Well, I'll work a couple of extra hours tonight. I should be able to make it." Holly wrinkled her nose, which always made her look funny, but I loved it. "All right, I'll try to talk to Stan about switching shifts." We chatted about little things and then went to rest. I wanted to break away from the routine and feel the euphoria I had as a student. "Oh, you're taking a break from being a hard worker, aren't you?" Stan said sarcastically. "Yeah," he used to make fun of me, I replied. He seemed a little weird to me, but he worked hard too, so he agreed to switch shifts with me. "Thanks, I'll make it worth your while." I thanked him and he continued to dissect the body while I served tools, as usual. I wasn't particularly inspired by working with dead bodies and had even considered changing jobs. But the pay was good and it was close to home, so I saved a lot on gas. On Saturday, we went to a planned event that Holly's friend had organized. They were already offering us drinks when we arrived. Amanda immediately took Holly to chat with the other girls, and I looked around since I didn't know many people there. One of the guys, who was clearly drunk, came up to me and invited me to join the group sitting by the pool. Drinking beer and smoking from a hookah didn't really appeal to me. I had never smoked regular cigarettes before, so I declined the offer. It brought back memories of our college parties, even though the people there weren't as young as they used to be. It had been about 15 years since then, but I remembered it vividly. Eventually, I gave in to the pleasurable sensations of having a few drinks. Holly returned to me after chatting with her friends. Feeling better, I decided to have some fun with her like we used to when we were younger. "Stop it, what are you doing?" she asked, a little embarrassed when I reached under her dress. "We're not the only ones here. So what? You're my wife. Let's just have fun. Isn't that what you wanted?" I kissed her, but still tried to maintain some decorum. There was no wild dancing at the party, but the atmosphere became more and more relaxed. Soon, we forgot about reality and time, and the hops in our veins made our blood pulsate to the rhythm of the music. I remember joining other couples, and them telling us something, and then Holly disappearing for what felt like an eternity. But when she returned to me and I held her in my arms again, my anxiety disappeared. I barely remember how we got home. In the morning, I had a severe headache and rummaged through the fridge for a beer or cold mineral water. "You gave me a hell of a time last night," I heard my wife's voice from the other end of the kitchen. "Yeah? What happened?" I asked, still clutching the back of my head. "Don't you remember? You won a drinking contest with Jack. He's known for his stamina." I don't remember a thing. I probably shouldn't have done that. The good thing was that neither Holly nor I had anywhere to go that day. I didn't have a shift until tomorrow morning, so I had plenty of time to clean up. But I spent most of the first half of the day lying on the couch, the pounding rhythm from the night before now even more uncomfortable. After lunch, Holly wanted to go for a walk. When I declined, she went by herself. I turned on the TV to watch the news. Police are investigating a murder that occurred yesterday on Main Street. Witnesses interviewed didn't provide reliable information, but some evidence suggests that the killer knew the victim. That's where the party was last night. But I don't remember anyone fighting, let alone someone getting killed. I tried to remember the events of last night, but the picture remained hazy, no matter how hard I strained my brain, only making my headache worse. When Holly returned, I told her what I had learned from the news. She just shrugged, saying that she didn't remember anything either, saying that she felt sorry for the guy, whoever he was. She left for the kitchen with a bag she had brought with her, obviously from the store, and soon I heard her making dinner. I stayed lying down. I didn't even feel like eating at this point. But the mineral water I had found in the morning was doing its job, and I felt better, little by little. The next day when I got to work, Stan greeted me with his usual humor. "Come on in, we've got a celebrity today." "Have you seen the news? The hero of the story is here." I went in and looked at the body lying alone on the cold iron table. The corpse had already taken on purple hues, his neck was ripped open, and his chest was scratched. I looked closely, and his face seemed familiar. I might have seen him at the party. When the thought flashed through my mind, I hesitated to share the news at once. I could only remember the beginning of the events of that evening. Involuntarily, the dreadful thought crept into my head that I might have been the one who did it. Holly had been looking at me so intently all day yesterday, as if she were trying to tell me something. We had been working on the corpse for some time, doing our usual work, but the dirty thought never left my mind. "I think his neck was stabbed through with a heel," he began his conclusion. "Yeah, that's right. Look at the way he's been chopped." Apparently whoever did it was pretty pissed off at him. I didn't have much inclination to look at it, so I just went on with my work. Soon, Stan was finished, and I could clean up my workplace. Memories of that evening came flooding back to me. I remembered that Holly had gone somewhere for a while. But no, what was I thinking? It definitely couldn't have been her. When I got home from work and was about to take a break from it all, there was a knock on the door. When I opened it, there was a police officer on the doorstep. He politely introduced himself and asked to come in to ask a few questions. Since we had also been to that party, he was obliged to question everyone who had been there and find out some information. I honestly admitted that I had had too much to drink and didn't remember everything very well. At that moment, Holly entered the room and the officer turned to her. "And you must be Mrs. Dryan. I need to ask you a few questions." "I heard what you were saying, officer," she replied, looking a little confused. "But I don't think there's anything I can do for you." The policeman handed us a picture of a dead man, in which you could clearly make out the features of his face. I looked at it and said, I might have seen him at the party, but since I didn't know anyone, I couldn't say for sure. When Holly picked up the picture, I thought she looked nervous. "Yes, he's a friend of Mary's. They came to the party together. But I think they got into a fight." "Yeah, that's right. But they weren't there long, that's for sure. Is that all you can tell me?" The officer looked at both of us. Suspiciously. "Well, I'll give you my number then," he said. "I'm on the case. Call me if you remember anything." He held out a little card and I took it and I looked at Holly. For a second, I thought there was something she wasn't telling me. But if I noticed it, so could the policeman. When we escorted him out, Holly sat down on the couch and wondered, "Is there anything you want to tell me?" I asked her. She looked at me thoughtfully, wrapping a strand of her hair around her finger. She always did that when she was nervous. "They just had a big fight that night," I explained. "I was with them, and I saw them fighting, and then they left." It's strange that she didn't tell me anything right away. After all, I asked her, "Is it such a secret?" "So they quarreled. It's no big deal." But Holly was acting pretty strange that night. I tried several more times to talk to her about it, but she kept repeating the same thing as if she had memorized the phrase. I decided to leave her alone and went to bed. A few days went by and we went on with our lives as before. Holly was back to her usual mood, but sometimes I still noticed her sitting thoughtfully as if she was remembering something. I supposed that Mary was the one who had been working on her boyfriend since they had been fighting so much. I had already told Holly my version of events, but she claimed otherwise. I talked to her, and so did the police. "It wasn't her. I think he just picked up some street girls," I said. "You don't know him, but he was a real womanizer. You think a hooker killed him?" I smirked, but anything's possible though. I suggested that Holly tell the police that option, but she refused. She kept saying it was none of our business. It might be, I said, but it was my family's business too, and I didn't want there to be any doubt about us. A few more days went by, and Stan, who had a good acquaintance with the police, got some useful information from him. He told me that the case had remained unsolved due to a lack of evidence. Soon we all forgot about the incident. Holly's birthday was coming up, and I decided to surprise her by making a reservation at a restaurant. She dressed up in her favorite outfit, and we also invited her friend Amanda and her boyfriend, who she never broke up with. The four of us sat at a booth by the side of the counter, and it was really comfortable. When Holly and I arrived, the two of them were already there. Amanda welcomed us with a big hug as always. "Holly, you look wonderful," she exclaimed. "Oh, why aren't you wearing your favorite shoes? They go so well with this dress." "Only a woman would notice that," I said, looking closely. I searched my memory, and indeed, I had not seen those dark blue patent leather shoes with high heels for a long time. "It can't be a coincidence," I said. "Oh, the heel broke. I can't get it repaired." I interrupted my speculation, Holly. I decided not to disturb the evening with my worst guesses, and we continued to have fun for several hours. When everyone visibly began to get tired, we went home. I wanted to ask Holly about her shoes again when I got home, but she stretched like a cat and smiled with her groggy eyes, so I decided to wait until morning. After all, it was her birthday, and I didn't want to spoil it. However, in the morning, I completely forgot about it as I rushed to work as usual. But then a call from the police made me return to my suspicions. The officer on the phone said there was new information about the night of the murder, and we had to report to the station. I asked if it could wait until the end of the day, and upon receiving an affirmative answer, I met my wife at home with more news. "So, what did they find?" Once again, it seemed like Holly was hiding something. I told the officer that I didn't know anything, and Holly went to change her clothes. I stayed downstairs lost in thought when I was distracted by a beep from Holly's phone, which she had accidentally left on the table. I glanced at it, thinking it might be important, but the screen went blank again. I decided to check if it was really important and swiped the screen to open the last message. However, I noticed one at the bottom of the list that had a video and the caption, "Take a look. It's important." My curiosity got the best of me and I opened the video. I couldn't believe my eyes as I watched Holly having fun with some men. I was brought back to reality by Holly screaming, "Don't watch that!" To lie, it's just somebody's joke. She immediately started making excuses, but I was confused and didn't know where to start. Eventually, I began questioning Holly myself. She denied it for a long time, pretending to be the victim of someone else's practical joke. Our conversation soon turned into a scandal as I pressed her harder and harder. Finally, she admitted that it was really her in the video. She started yelling at me, saying that I didn't make enough money and that she had to pay for bills and everything else. Her salary wasn't much different from mine, since she had been demoted, so she decided to moonlight in that way. I felt a sense of anger building up inside me, and I was ready to explode. I started cursing at her and even slapped her in the face. As I pinned her down with one hand on the couch, I asked her what she knew about the murder. Through tears, she admitted that the guy had found out about her part-time job and filmed it on his phone. He then sent her the video and blackmailed her. But since she couldn't pay for his silence anymore, she fought with him at the party and hit him several times in the neck with a stiletto. Although Holly swore she didn't intend to kill him, I didn't care anymore. My perfect world was abruptly shattered. Abruptly covered in dirt and blood, I no longer recognized Holly as the woman I loved. Something clicked in me, as if my feelings had been shredded by a sharp heel in the same way. Our visit to the police station did not take place as planned. Instead, without waiting for us, the officer came to our house himself. When he saw us in our condition, he knew immediately that something was wrong. Holly looked at me with teary eyes and begged me not to say anything. But she herself had killed my feelings for her. It would have seemed impossible to change my feelings so drastically, but that was exactly what had happened. I told the policeman everything I had learned, showing him Holly's phone. And the next moment he was leading her out of the house, handcuffed to the police car. Dear listeners, your support is very important to us. If you like our story, please like, comment, and subscribe. It's very motivating for us. We need your feedback to improve our content.